Howdy folks, it's AJ with the Hunting Gear Guy. Today I want to tell you a little bit about Project Mapleseed. Project Mapleseed is a marksmanship training and qualification and kind of all wrapped into one day. In the US, they have this thing called Project Appleseed, and this is the Canadian version of it. And the Canadian version of it is a one-day event that primarily focuses on training the fundamentals of marksmanship in the morning and then applying those fundamentals later on in the afternoon when you shoot your Mapleseed qualification target, which is this target that I'm holding right here. So it's kind of interesting because it really improves your marksmanship fundamentals. I took mine. I've been shooting pretty much all my life, shooting gophers since I was like, I don't know, 5 to 10 kind of a thing. And this kind of marksmanship training really helps with learning some things that you probably could have used before and really layering on top of what you have right now as a base for marksmanship. So really impressive from that perspective. There's a couple of interesting things to note. One is that it's all positional shooting, so you're doing standing, sitting or kneeling, and prone. You don't use bipods, you're not shooting off of a bench, so it's very practical style of marksmanship training, because you can take this stuff and turn around and use it in competition or in hunting or in many other aspects of where you use a rifle for marksmanship. So from that perspective, super practical stuff. One thing that Mapleseed does that's really interesting is that it makes heavy use of the sling. So you'll use hasty sling. Most people are familiar with. That's if you've got a traditional hunting rifle, you kind of stick your hand through and loop it around and it makes it tighter, and it really helps with your stability. But the other thing that they teach in Mapleseed, not only how to do that properly, which is kind of nice because a lot of people kind of are familiar with like the idea, but they don't know how to cinch it up properly. But they also go through loop sling, which is a different way of hooking the sling up to yourself that's even more solid for prone and sitting or kneeling positions. So really interesting on the sling. So what should you expect if you go to a Mapleseed? Well, there'll be like an orientation in the morning. We'll get you going on a baseline target to see how, like what you brought to Mapleseed. And then you're going to get these POIs, or points of instruction, one, and then you'll be able to apply it and shoot it on a target, and then get another point of instruction, and then get to apply it on a target. So you go back and forth between learning and then applying that very kind of rapid fire. In some marksmanship courses that I've taken, you do all your learning in the morning and you do all your shooting in the afternoon. This is kind of nice because you get to kind of like pace it out and try different things. So you learn about the sitting position, for example, and then you get to try the sitting position. So for learners out there who benefit from listening to it and trying it on their own, this is going to be a better way for you to learn. Now, Mapleseed is shot at 25 meters, so it's a short range discipline, but because we use these scaled down targets, it is simulating shooting out at longer distances, and what you learn with this is applicable out to those longer distances as well. Because we're shooting short distance, you can show up with a 22. That's the most ideal thing, just a semi-automatic 22. Something that's magazine fed and scoped is the best for this. And you can use other stuff, like you could use a bolt action rifle, or you could use a centerfire rifle, but a 22 with a sling and just a real basic setup will afford you to learn the most. You can focus on your marksmanship fundamentals. You can focus on positioning, on natural point of aim, on breathing, all these other kind of things. And you don't have to focus on recoil management if you're firing a big beefy centerfire. Or cost, because shooting like 400 rounds of centerfire is a little bit expensive for a day, whereas doing it with 22 is pretty cheap. So you can use centerfire at some of the Mapleseeds. I would strongly recommend use like a rimfire, like a 22 LR or something like that, just for cost, and because again, the skills you learn with a 22 will apply themselves to your centerfire just as easily. Now, what's it like participating at a Mapleseed? Well, it's very structured. There's a lot of structure that goes into the day. It's very safe because there are a lot of safety measures put in a different couple types of procedures and a couple of different ways that they're shot. You can tell that there's a lot of thought that's been put into how the events are structured to keep them safe for participants. So that's one thing that you'll notice. The next is that there's a lot of stuff to learn. And you may not be able to absorb all of it, just because it's like drinking from a fire hose. It's a lot of information in a short period of time. But that's where practicing after the Mapleseed or taking another one is where you're really going to be able to layer your skills up on top of each other. But mostly because Mapleseed is made up of volunteers that are just putting these out across the country. Like this is the only standardized marksmanship course that just civilians can just go take across Canada. That's fairly standardized across the country. The price is super reasonable for 1 day of instruction and shooting, and it's again very nice and standard, and probably one of the things I would strongly recommend to people early on or even later on in their shooting, because there is, again, so much to learn from structured training. So why am I telling you about this? Well, for one, I'm an instructor in Shoot Boss for Mapleseed, so I help put on events across Alberta. Personally, for like what I think is that a lot of this country needs basic marksmanship instruction. There's a lot of people out there who are hunters or firearms owners who just have never had any formal instruction, and they just kind of learn stuff as they go. Maybe they watch a YouTube video or something, which would be something, but nothing really beats formal instruction, kind of hands-on with firearms and with marksmanship. So I think that there's a lot of people in Canada who need this kind of training. And that's why I'm in it, and that's why I'm doing these events across Alberta. So I'd strongly recommend that you try out one of these Project Mapleseeds. They have them all across the country. You can learn more at mapleseedrifleman.com. There's some events up there. There's a Facebook page as well if you wanted to engage with people, ask them some questions, ask about equipment or that kind of thing. Rick's got a video on what you should bring to your first Mapleseed. That's also a really good video. And I think it's just a fantastic training and experience for a lot of shooters out there. So I would strongly recommend that you come out to a Project Mapleseed. Thanks for watching.